Hi, this is the advisor with Stacey Chillemi, founder of the Complete Herbal Guide. And today we have Natalie Bohm with us. And Natalie and I have done several episodes together, and we have teamed up to work together because Natalie has the Defeating Epilepsy organization, and I am an epilepsy coach, and I spent my whole life devoted to helping people with epilepsy and advocating for people with epilepsy. So what we're going to do is each week we are going to do an episode on epilepsy, and we're going to hit topics that people are really inclined to benefit from. And a lot of people, have questions, but it's very hard to find the answers to. And one of the big questions that we found, people talked about, how can I control my seizures and live a happy, healthy, and productive life with epilepsy? And that's a question that Natalie and I are going to talk about today, how you can control your seizures. And this is not a way that that you can just things that we're going to give you tips basically. And these are it's not a way to stop your seizures, but these tips that we're going to share with you can actually help improve your life and maybe decrease your epilepsy seizures and maybe help you so you could have a more productive life. So do you want to tell them a little about yourself, Natalie, and how, so people understand, your epilepsy and what happened to you and so forth?
Okay. Well, I'm an epilepsy advocate and a strategic management. I have a background in business administration, and I created the Defeating Epilepsy Foundation because I wanted to make sure that people with epilepsy had better educational and economic opportunities, and for those who haven't been able to control their seizures, to work to help them get a better quality of life. I have to say the reason my seizures have been controlled is working with my doctor. I've realized that, my doctor is not a magician. He can't just prescribe something to me and the magic happens and my seizures go away. I have found over the years, I have to take responsibility for my own health and well-being. And I do things like eating clean. I exercise daily. I see a therapist to help with my stress. And I found just incorporating a healthy lifestyle and taking control and setting realistic goals for myself is the reason that I've been able to get my seizures under control.
And for me, I developed epilepsy at the age of 5 through a virus called encephalitis that had traveled to my brain. I had struggled. My life was like a roller coaster ride with uncontrollable seizures. And it wasn't probably until my early 30s that I started to change my lifestyle. And when I started to change my lifestyle and I was taking my medicine and making sure I didn't miss any dosages, I saw a huge change. And just like Natalie said, you can't expect to go to the doctor, get a medication from the doctor, and think that pill is going to help you control your seizures. There's more to it than just that. Doctors can prescribe medications and they could try to work out a cocktail blend of medications sometimes to help control your seizures, but it's not always going to work that way. And most of the time it doesn't. It's the doctor and the patient working together as a team to try to help control your seizures. And one of the ways that I was able to control my seizures was, first, I had to change the way I ate. I noticed that I was eating a lot of foods with high sodium content in it. And when I ate a lot of foods with high sodium content, what I noticed was that I would get high water retention. And every time my weight went really high on the scale from inflammation, I noticed that I was taking a seizure. And I also noticed around ovulation and menstruation, I was also taking seizures. Now, these are times when my water weight was increased. So inflammation was a big factor. It was a trigger point for me. So I needed to make sure I had a diet that didn't make me bloated. It didn't cause inflammation. I had to change my diet to more healthier foods with low sodium contents. I started reading the labels. I started eating more pure vegetables, organic, any types of meats. I stood away from the red meats a lot. For chicken, I was eating organic. For fish, I was making sure, what quality fish it was and make sure it wasn't high in mercury. I also changed my lifestyle because I was staying up late and I noticed when I didn't get enough of sleep, I was having seizures. So I had to change my sleeping habits as well, just like Natalie said. And I also had to work on my stress level because I also had trouble with stress and I had to get some therapy myself to learn how to control my stress level. So when I did get upset and I was frustrated, I had ways to work and do different methods to control my stress level so a seizure didn't occur. And also, along with getting therapy for my stress, I found that meditation and yoga was very helpful. And also exercising was very helpful because it got off the steam, and I was drinking a lot of water while I was exercising, and that was helping me detoxify. And I'll go over that later, but detoxification also, I saw a humongous decrease in my seizures when I started to detoxify. So you have any other things you'd like to talk about? Nutrition? Like, what type of nutrition changes did you do in your lifestyle that you thought were beneficial?
Well, I found that getting away from processed food was a big
Yes.
help. Like you said, the high sodium, and a lot of people don't realize how many chemicals are in processed food.
Oh my
And when
gosh.
I
Yeah.
stepped away from processed food and started eating healthier and organic, like you said, not only did it taste better, I found I didn't need as much food. I wasn't consistently hungry. Like if you go somewhere and get a burger, go through a drive-through, you eat that, a lot of times you're still hungry because
Yes.
it's not satisfying, what your body's not getting what it needs, so it's still craving what it needs.
Yes.
And I found, just changing that and even having a glass of water before eating made a big
Yes.
difference.
Huge
But
difference.
but I really love how you brought up the detoxification because that really does help. A lot of people don't realize when we have high levels of stress from chronic illness, it does cause a lot of inflammation, which is toxic to our bodies. And just like you said, doing the yoga and meditating, that makes a big difference. Drinking a lot of water will flush out toxic things. But I also love sitting in the sauna and just
Mhm.
meditating there. And I find going in and taking, couple big things of water in with me and just sitting there drinking my water and listening to music, or even times just closing my eyes and not thinking about anything, it just helps relieve so much, negativity and toxicity. I found since, just changing a few little things in my life
Mhm.
has made such a big difference. And when I don't follow through with it, I have a bad habit at times, working from home. I'll
Yeah.
be working on something, and then all of a sudden, well, I can't get to this because I have to finish this project first. And then
Right.
someone calls me, and then all of a sudden, I'm trying, and before I know it, what I should have done during the day, I didn't do it. And then if I go a few days like that, not exercising, not meditating, that's when I start feeling the chronic fatigue again.
Yes. Me
That's when I
too.
start feeling the depression again. That's when all the side effects I find start creeping back up on me. And that's why it's just so important to find what works for you and keep a consistent schedule of it.
Yes, and I also find keeping a journal too helps. So start writing down the foods that you're eating, and try to figure out what's interfering with your body and what's not interfering with your body. And one thing also, processed foods are horrible for your body. And what happens is when the body has a lot of ingredients that it's not familiar with, it stores it in the body and it can't break it down. It doesn't know what it is, so it stores it. And that's when weight gain or obesity comes in, and that's when more illnesses can come on. That's when more medications can be added to somebody's already, dealing with epilepsy. They could be dealing with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart problems, you name it. And it could be all related. The gut source, the root of it could be related to what you're eating. And by changing your diet, by eating more healthier, you could, see a huge difference, because even the foods, some of the foods could actually make you foggy and make it hard for you to focus. I always say, look at the label, and if you can't pronounce the words in back of the label, don't eat it. And the same thing goes with supplements. Like when I would cleanse, I would use colon cleanses, and I would use full body cleanses, and I would drink matcha tea and things like that. But so as Natalie was saying, one of the things that we noticed in our society, especially in the epilepsy community, is that many people tend to eat processed foods. Now, Natalie, you were saying by your own experience, how do you feel about processed foods?
I found that when I was eating processed food, I felt more side effects from my epilepsy. I was experiencing chronic fatigue. I was having weight gain a lot easier. There were even times I had more inflammation in my muscles. I had a lot of pain and discomfort. And I just found that, it wasn't something that could be part of my life. Now, yeah, I'm not saying you can never eat something like that ever again. You want to have a cheat day. You want to be able to give yourself a treat once in a while, but also realize, you have to focus on moderation. I give
Right,
myself a cheat day one every Wednesday after I drop the boys off from school.
right.
There's a coffee shop I love. I go up and get a cup of coffee. I get a latte. I know it's loaded with sugar, but that's my one treat for the week, to treat myself to a nice cup of coffee. And the rest of the week, I'm focused on water. I'm focused on eating my clean foods. And I found having the cheat day really reduced my temptations and my cravings to fall back on old habits. So if there's anything I could suggest to somebody, is if there's something you really like, one day out of the week, don't feel guilty if you got to have a small piece of something, or you have to have Starbucks, because if you try to give it up completely, one, you can make yourself very sick going through sugar withdrawal. But then
Yes.
two, the cravings are going to come back to where you might not just fall back on it, but it might be worse the second time. So you have
Yeah.
to set realistic goals.
Exactly. Taking in a lot of sugar, sugar is an addiction, and it's very hard to get off of it. So you do have to wean yourself off the sugar. But once you get off a lot of the sugar, you lose your craving for sugar. And once in a while, it's fine. Everything is good in moderation. You'll hear any health coach, you'll hear anybody that has lost weight, it's always good to have a cheat day, because if you try to be so good every single day, you're going to end up falling. And with processed foods, I noticed that anytime I ate processed foods, like you said, I was never full, and I always had a lot of inflammation in me. And like I mentioned earlier, when I had a lot of inflammation in me, that was one of the things that I noticed when I had seizures. It was always around the time of inflammation. So, when you eat a lot of processed foods, what happens is your body doesn't break it down. It doesn't know what to do with it, because it's not aware of a lot of the different ingredients, and it doesn't know where to put it. So it ends up storing it. That's when we get the weight gain. And that's when other illnesses can occur, like high blood pressure and high cholesterol, heart problems. And then before you know it, you have like a pharmacy of medications, and you're dealing with your epilepsy too. And that could bring on depression and other things. So, not only are you going to be, you might battle more problems in the long run, you're going to end up, mentally, unstable as well, because you're going to feel depressed having to deal with trying to control your seizures and other things that might come from not eating properly.
And then another thing to bring up that I didn't before is a lot of problems we're having now with our healthcare, such as obesity, heart problems, digestive problems, come from gut health. And if you're not eating healthy, the colon, the large intestine, is known for, if it starts developing bad bacteria love to grow in dark areas. And
Yeah.
trying to get that bad bacteria out with a digestive enzyme, if you're not eating well, it's nearly impossible. And I can say, when I was younger, I had IBS. And I always said, oh, it's just stress. Oh, it's just my seizure meds. A lot of it had to do with poor nutrition. And
Yeah.
once I started improving my nutrition, and I started doing colonic therapy to
Hmm.
help with my IBS symptoms went away. So I had to find ways to, I found just making the right changes really helped alleviate a lot of the side effects I was dealing with, because a lot of us, these medications that we have to take to stay alive, I mean,
Yeah.
they're very powerful drugs. And not only do they have a big impact on our brain and our mental health, when it comes to how they work, but also, our livers are working hard to metabolize them,
Yes.
our kidneys are working hard, our gut is working hard. So these medications affect so many different parts of our body that many people don't truly think about it. So we have to take into consideration, we're not just trying to make our brain well to get our seizures under control. We have to focus on the entire body.
Exactly. And I noticed a decrease in my seizures when I started to detoxify, because I wasn't eating the right foods. I was very constipated. So I was holding a lot of toxins in my intestinal area. And when I started to do colon cleanses and whole body cleanses, and I would do liver cleanses every 6 to 9 months, I would do. And I started to do I started to do protein drinks. I talk about them on some of my videos. I would use Biome, and that would be probiotics mixed with red vegetables and green vegetables. And I would also take celery powder because that fills you up. So I would eat less, and I would get the probiotics, the red vegetables, the green vegetables. Plus I was doing the colon cleanses and the body cleanses to get the toxins out. I increased my intake on water. I was drinking out a lot of water because none of us, I can tell you a good amount of society does not drink enough of water. A lot of people don't have enough of water in them, and a lot of people are magnesium deficient, and that also impacts the body in lots of ways also. So, when I tell people that I cleanse and stuff like that, I suggest it, but I would also suggest making sure you purchase things that aren't going to interfere with your medication, because there are supplements out there, that can interfere with certain medications, or they can provoke a seizure, so you have to always be careful when you're doing the natural supplements that I talk about, and you're doing, all these natural treatments. They could be extremely beneficial to the body, but make sure they're not going to interfere. Like St. John wort, that is a great supplement for other people, but not for people with epilepsy, because it could cause a seizure for people with epilepsy. So it is a beneficial supplement, but it's not good for the epilepsy community. So you have to make sure you know what you're taking.
And if you go to my website at www.defeatingepilepsy.org and go to our blog, I recently actually did an article on that, and I listed vitamins that were beneficial for immune health, brain health, that many neurologists would recommend. But I also did put a list such as St. John's wort, ephedra. It's for some people, caffeine. I made a list of things that you really should stay away from. And I found the best thing was when it came to, because I've always used supplements, before I had COVID, and I'm just getting back into it, I was powerlifting. So I was looking for things to build muscle. I was looking for things to build immunity. And I found, even though I thought I was on track, I really wasn't. And I was so lucky when I talked to my neurologist about my goals. He's like, well, are you having calcium and vitamin D? And I said, no, I don't take that. He goes, well, you should. He goes, one, you're on carbamazepine. That's the generic form of Tegretol. And long term, he goes, that reduces bone density. He goes, you can put yourself at risk for osteoarthritis. So you should be taking a calcium supplement. When it comes to vitamin D, he goes, that can actually help lower your depression symptoms. So it's, if you feel you're missing something, if you have a good neurologist, they're going to work with you and answer questions. And I mean, what I've always done, which is a big help, is I'm not organized today. You see, I have a notepad that I put everything down for what I have to do today. Because the way my cognitive impairment is, if I don't write it, I don't remember it.
Yeah.
If I know I have a doctor's appointment coming up, I will, on a separate page in my notebook, write down things that I feel are important that I need to talk to him about. That way, the day of my appointment, I flip it open, I have the information there, and I can go over it with him, no problem, because I know if I don't, the moment I get off my telemedicine call with him, I'm going to go, oh my goodness, I didn't bring this up. And then I'm going to be right in the portal going, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you about this.
Yeah. I would actually
communicate.
Communication is key. I would actually have like a couple. I would have calendar books. I would have a notepad of questions to ask. I would do research before I saw him and make sure I had every question I wanted to ask him down. I made sure I wrote an outline of my ovulation and menstruation and when my seizure would occur, and go all the way back from the last time I saw him. So I made sure I told him how many seizures I had. I told him when I was having the seizures, if they were close to ovulation or not, and I would go over everything with him. And, I think that's very, communication is key. And, don't be afraid to talk to your doctor, because your doctor, in order for him to help you, he has to know what's going on. And like we said, eating properly, having a lifestyle that is healthy, and making sure you get enough of sleep, making sure you're taking care of your body, making sure everything you put in your body plays a huge factor on how you feel and think. So your mentality and your physical being it all is intertwined with what we put in our bodies. So always think twice, especially if you have epilepsy. How is this going to interfere with my seizures? And when you go out, if you want to go out to the restaurant with your friends or family members, try to pick something a little bit healthier on the menu. Because a lot of times we were going out, we're all excited about getting great food, but sometimes you have to be a little bit smart and look at the menu and maybe pick something that is not too heavy on your body, or you may not agree with your body. And also, it's really important that we take care of ourselves, because that's what's going to help our seizures, is by taking care of ourselves.
And that's very true, and that's probably been one of the hardest things for me, to listen to my body, because of the kind of work I'm in and what I like to do.
Hmm.
When I feel tired, it really frustrates me. And I used to try to push myself through it, like, oh, you can't take a nap. You got to get this done first. You'll be able to sleep later. I found when I didn't listen to my body, that's when I was at my worst. So if
Yes,
I have a
me
day
too.
where, if I'm having a rough day and my body's like, no, you got to lie down for an hour, even if it's just lying down, I don't go to sleep or have time to sleep, even just lying down and watching something on TV or reading a book for a little bit to alleviate stress, that
Yeah.
I found has really strengthened my immune system, just taking that step back, and really has helped me to get healthier.
And I think that's an excellent point, because even for me, I would be like you, and I would always want to get everything done, and I knew I had to get something else done, and so I would try to multitask. And before I knew it, I was on the computer for so long. And for people with epilepsy, you can't overstress yourself, and people don't realize how draining being on a computer all day could be for your body and for your brain. So I would notice also too, if I was on the computer too much, or if I was working too much and I didn't give myself rest, I would have a seizure. And a lot of times my seizures would sometimes occur when I was on the computer too much. So let's think about that also, audience. If you're on the computer, and that goes for your phone too, try to lessen the time, because you don't realize it, but that could also be a trigger point for a seizure as well.
No, no, it can be. And one thing they did a study on, I wrote an article about different reflex epilepsies, where they've been trying to study certain triggers, and they don't have much information on it. I think it was actually a single patient they were studying, and they called, the doctor who wrote the paper referred to it as selfie epilepsy. And what a lot of these phones have is, with the taking the pictures or certain things, it can cause a small flash, but they
Mhm.
haven't had enough people at this point who were photosensitive come forward and say, this happened. I ended up having a seizure over it. So
Yeah,
one thing that a lot of research are trying to do is establish evidence that the cell phone companies, like Apple, Samsung, them, need to start taking more precautions, because certain little things you wouldn't think about can trigger a seizure. Or
yeah,
there's times I've worked on the computer and something has flashed, and thankfully I'm not photosensitive, but I am sensitive in other ways. If something is too bright or things are flashing, I'll get a migraine from it or a cluster headache from it, and then
yeah,
I'm done for the day, especially if I have a cluster headache, because it will be around my eye and go up the side of my temporal lobe. I
yep,
have one like that, I'm done for the day. So
yeah,
I know I have to, as much as I like checking my email or doing little things on the phone, there's times
yeah.
during the day I have to just push it aside and say, no, I'm not looking at it.
And people with epilepsy are more prone to migraines than other people. And I notice when I get those type of migraines, and I know if I don't close my eyes and rest, I will have a seizure. So
Yes.
immediately I have to go to my bedroom, go somewhere comfortable, close my eyes, and just shut off the rest of the world. And I could be just have my eyes closed for 15-20 minutes with no interruptions and just relax, and the migraine will slowly make its way out. But if I don't, then I will get double vision, and then I could have a seizure. So then, when I would get a migraine, immediately that's saying, okay, your body's had enough for today. Our body gives us
Yeah.
signals. When we feel pain, we get headaches, we feel fatigue. This is signs from your body is talking to you. People don't understand
Yes.
this, all these triggers that we get, all these pains, aches, headaches, whatever. This is our body trying to talk to us and telling us that we need to take a break. Our body is in need for a break, and your body is hurting for a reason. So then your body is saying you need to slow down, you need to stop, and this is your body is talking to you. Even with your brain, when you have a headache or a migraine, it had too much, it can't handle anymore. And for someone with epilepsy, if you have a headache or a migraine, and that's a big sign saying your brain needs to rest, stop what you're doing. And that's when the limitations come in. People with epilepsy, nobody likes limitations, but you have to give yourself limitations. You have to know your body, know you as a person, and you have to set limitations for yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, if it frustrates you to label it as, oh, I have to do this because of epilepsy, what I've done is I've said to myself, you know what, I have to limit myself because I'm a human being and can only do so much. And luckily, the neurologist I have now has really pushed me to do that. I had, was it early last month, I had a real horrible panic attack because of a project I was working on. I was really stressed about it. I tend to be a perfectionist. It had to be just right.
Yeah.
And I started getting numbness on the right side of my face. And I started twitching on the left side, which that never happened before when I had a panic attack. And
Yeah.
it really scared me. And I called the clinic, and the nurse thankfully had the doctor call me back. He was able to. And when I was telling him what was going on, he's like, well, it doesn't sound like a seizure, just talk to me. And I told him, I'm like, I'm so frustrated. I have a project that is coming up due. I got to get back. He went, no, you're not going back to anything. You're going to rest. And I'm like, but he goes, no, forget the project. You're going to rest. And, at the time I was frustrated, but I'm so grateful that, I have a doctor like this who is not afraid to give me some tough love when I need it and say,
Yeah.
no, you got to take a step back, listen to me and listen to your body. This
Right.
isn't right now. And I think, at times in the past, I would have been so defensive going, oh, what do you know? I'm the one feeling it. Don't tell me
Yeah.
how to handle this. But sometimes we need to have that support system.
Yes.
And one thing I've said to people with epilepsy, which it took me a long time to tell myself even, it's okay not to be okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to have a bad day and say, you know what, things just aren't going my way today. I got to take a step back and take care of me. And
Right.
and if that means I have to cancel a meeting, or I have to pick up the phone and say, I know we're supposed to meet today for coffee. Sorry, I just can't be there. I'm sorry, that I can't show up. I used to feel horrible canceling on people. I would be so angry with myself. And
Right.
I finally just had to tell myself, if I don't do these things and I don't listen to my body, how am I going to be productive?
Exactly.
How can I do what I need to do and fulfill my responsibilities? I won't be able to.
Right. And your body comes first. We cannot be the best of ourselves if we don't care for our bodies first, and we can't neglect our bodies. And then also people have to realize you can't get angry at your doctor because you're still having seizures and your doctor's giving you medication. Don't be angry with the doctor and don't say, oh, the doctor doesn't understand me. But it's a partnership. You have to take care of
Yes.
yourself and you have to do the best you can. And by going over, I think what we've gone over with everybody, we talked about nutrition, we talked about healthy lifestyle, we talked about journaling, making lists, going over everything with your doctor, cleansing, eating the right foods, and, maybe doing probiotics, and probiotics helps to balance the gut, the good and the bad, so you don't have those problems, with your GI tract and inflammation. And then even trying turmeric for inflammation if you bloat a
Yeah.
lot also, and try these things and see if it helps. All these things might sound simple to one person, and they might not sound like, oh, that's not going to work, but it helped me. Did it help you?
Mhm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's helped me a lot, making the right changes and being willing to try. And like you said, keeping the journal and knowing what I have to ask and share, because what I really like that you brought up about the relationship, the doctor-patient relationship. When I was younger, I felt the same way. The doctor's not listening, the doctor doesn't understand, and I had a lot of anger.
Yeah,
once I realized that this was a partnership, all right, I may be the one living with it, but he has the education. And also my doctor's like, okay, he realizes he has the education, but if he doesn't listen to me, what good is that education? How can he apply what he knows to help
exactly.
me be where I need to be? So I mean, that's one thing that when you're with a doctor, you're looking for a doctor, make sure there's a doctor who listens. And I mean, the one thing I can say in doctor's defense that I have noticed sadly with our healthcare system, they really only have so much time. And it's
That's
not that
true.
they don't want to listen to you. I've talked to many doctors in private who have told me, I have so many minutes to talk to my patient, so many minutes to make a decision on what I'm going to do, so many minutes to get the paperwork done. I have to be out the door and I have to be to my next patient.
Yes, it's
And, you
true.
know, it burns them out just like it emotionally, mentally burns us out as patients feeling
Right.
frustrated that we don't get the answers. It
Yes,
does the same to the doctors. That's where I really feel I've grown and why I've had a healthy relationship with my doctors, because with
Mhm.
the frustration with our healthcare system, it
Yes,
really has caused a lose-lose situation, not just for the patient, but for the medical professionals that are trying to help their patients. And
right.
so more than ever, we really need to take a step back and say, and try not to be one-sided about things. Let your doctor know. And I've told my doctor, you know, I realize anything he says, he has a good purpose to it. And at the same time, I've told him, I don't expect you to be a miracle worker. I know
Right.
I have to step to the plate and take responsibility for myself as well. And
Yes.
it's why we've been able to establish such a healthy doctor-patient relationship.
Yes, definitely. People, I have, it took me a while. I'm not gonna, it took me years to find the right, epileptologist, but once I found that epileptologist, I knew he was the right person. I could just tell by how he listened to me, how he interacted with me, the care he showed me, I never had that from any other epileptologist or neurologist. And, I worked with that doctor for years. It took a good, 15 to 18 years, to actually get me controlled, and we
Yeah.
worked for a long time trying to find the perfect cocktail of medications to control me. And as I got older, adjustments had to be made. But you have to realize that controlling your seizures is not always going to be an overnight thing. And it's going to take both people to work together. And no, our healthcare system in the United States is not perfect. So, when you see the doctors not spending enough of time with you and they're rushing around, it's because they also have, quotas, and they have to also do things accordingly, depending on what, their rules and regulations are, where they're working, and what needs to be done and so forth. So, you have to have, an understanding for, in that respect. And, you have to, have a good communication, and to try some of the things that we discussed in the video. Tell us your feedback, give us your comments, see if any of this stuff works. If you have questions for me or Natalie, and you have any, questions about, controlling your seizures, things that you've tried, or just ask us about what things that we've tried. And, we'll try to answer the questions the best we can. And, we've spent our whole lives trying to help people with epilepsy, and we expect to spend the rest of our lives trying to help people with epilepsy. So we're here for you. We love you
Yes,
guys.
absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
we hope we helped you today. And, if you have any suggestions about any other videos you'd like us to make, we're going to be hitting a lot of different topics, but if there's specific topics that, you have suggestions that you would like to know more about, put them in the comment boxes and we will definitely try to answer them the best we can.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for listening. And we'll be back soon because we're going to be doing a series, and we're going to be, hitting topics about epilepsy to help, answer a lot of questions that the internet doesn't really talk about, like coping with epilepsy and everything that goes underneath the umbrella of it. You don't hear a lot about coping with epilepsy, how to deal with it. You hear a lot of medical stuff, treatments, causes, symptoms, blah, 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 blah. But how does a person live a happy, healthy, and productive life with epilepsy? And that's the things that me and Natalie are going to address. And we're going to tell you from our own perspective, from us and from all the people we've worked with, what works and what doesn't work. And we're going to share ideas with you. We can't say they're 100%, they're just ideas. And if you find them beneficial and you want to try them, we wish you the best of luck, and we hope we helped you and give you some input from our side.
Have a good one, everyone. And like you said, you can leave any questions or comments below, and we ask that you like our videos and please subscribe to our channels.
Yes. Have a great day, and thank you so much for listening to us. We hope we helped you, and we love you guys.